Let's take a look at some NEO charts from the latest article on Brave New Coin. So if we compare NEO, which is a proof of stake chain, to the other proof of stake chains using a few categories or metrics: market cap, total daily transaction volume, total daily fees, transactions per day, daily active addresses, and dev activity or git commits, it's kind of in the bottom quartile or percentile of all of those categories, except total daily transaction volume, where it's leading the pack pretty substantially. So this isn't necessarily bullish or bearish, it's just to show where it stands out or where it doesn't stand out amongst its peers. Again, trying to get a complete picture of things. Another thing I want to mention is, like, the first line of the article is decentralized smart contract network. That's more of a dream or a goal than it is a reality. 5 of the 7 consensus nodes are still controlled by NEO. They've discussed plans to change this. It just hasn't happened yet. So another thing to realize getting into the NEO market is this isn't necessarily a decentralized chain here. Some weird stuff can happen, not that it will, but if you're wanting to focus on decentralized chains, NEO certainly isn't one of them in its current state. Some other weird thing to notice is that the total daily fees on Dash are way higher than anywhere else. I think this is because Dash has some mixing capabilities, privacy capabilities that are skewing this higher. Like the cost of those services, I think, is skewing this higher. I could be wrong. And the same thing with daily active addresses and transactions per day. I think these like washing, mixing type services are increasing all these metrics substantially on that chain. Looking at dApps, if it's a smart contract network, it should have a substantial amount of dApps. It should have activity in that realm. And as you can see, if we compare sort of all of the chains with smart contracts on them, NEO doesn't really impress with the numbers. And this isn't even looking at dApps that actually have active users on them. You know, if I were to look at all these chains, all these numbers would probably drop to a third or less of what they are, especially on these smaller ones. There's virtually nobody like on the active addresses side, like actually using this stuff on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis. But just number-wise, just based on number, quantity, not quality, NEO is definitely at the bottom of the pack. You know, there's really no discernible difference between NEO and all these other coins that have less than 100 dApps, let's say. You know, there's a difference here between Tron and EOS, and obviously ETH, which is heads and shoulders above the rest in that category. Now, if we look at transactions per day, which is the line here, and the fill is average transaction values, this is the opposite of what you want to see if you're bullish. So it's showing a decline in both metrics over the past 2 years, and it hasn't really had any substantial uptick, you know, recently or in the near past or anything like that. It's just been down, 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 and there hasn't really been any revival of any of these metrics. So from an on-chain perspective, it certainly doesn't look bullish, even though later I'll talk about how the chart looks really good. You know, the chart is sort of a product of the market as a whole, where altcoins are booming kind of regardless of what it is. As long as it's listed, it's going to be doing well, just because everything's sort of sold off of the past 2 or 3 years. And for whatever reason, now's the time that alt season is upon us. And it doesn't matter that no one's using this or that it's not decentralized, you know, that the fundamentals don't matter. They sort of go out the window when the market as a whole is doing well. And if we look at NVT, which is a measure of economic utility, and we look at monthly active addresses, again, this paints a super bearish picture. Monthly active addresses at multi-year lows and NVT at multi-year highs, or all-time high, actually. You want this to be low and you want active addresses to be high. So this does not paint a picture of bullishness in any regard. There's a clear divergence here between what the chart is showing. Not that the chart is like massively overbought or anything, but the trend metrics have definitely turned up on NEO, again, as a product of the entire market, more so than NEO independently sort of having some sort of resurgence on the chain or people using it, or, you know, nothing is supported by any of the on-chain metrics here. So moving to the charts, I like to look at the same stuff pretty much for everything. the Bitfinex long short ratio, the 50 and the 200 EMAs, the red, green and the red here, the visible profile, volume profile of the visible range, VPVR, these horizontal bars here, volume, RSI, just an oscillator to show sort of extreme tops and bottoms as well as divergences. And I'm starting to put yearly pivots on these charts too, just because it's sort of flirting with the yearly pivot zones on a lot of these alts. So putting this all together, if we just look at the long short, the open interest, the OI data, you can see there's a massive, it's 96% long. You know, not that this is really correlated to anything historically for price, but you can see the previous local high at $20 correlated with an all-time high in longs. So if we see longs blow out again as we get to 20, that could be an issue, something to watch. The 50 and the 200 did have a daily cross, a golden cross, so that's extremely bullish. It says bullish continuation is likely. Volume's pretty muted, but that could be an issue more so with Bitfinex than the pair itself. There's definitely a bearish divergence here, so it's getting higher highs in price on lower momentum. So that says there's waning bullish momentum, and be careful longing here, because the higher this goes without momentum, the more likely it is to just roll over and have a nice little pullback. There's an argument for a cup and handle here, continuation. You know, a lot of people draw cup and handles like at the bottom, and they're like, look, it's a cup and handle, but I'm not going to disagree with them in that realm. But what you want to see is, excuse me, is cup and handle continuation like you do here. A nice rounded U with a V handle here. So this definitely looks like it has upside regardless of the divergences here. I painted this $20 zone because of the yearly pivot. That's the next resistance up, and there's a pretty big VPVR level there to watch on the way up. So if it can break 20, which there's a myriad of resistance reasons there, while at the same time not blowing out these longs on the OI realm, you know, it could see some pretty substantial continuation, but that's probably months away. I think right now in the near term, it's going to wrestle between this cup and handle and the golden cross versus this bearish divergence that it's seeing on the RSI. Looking at the cloud, it's exactly where you want it to be pre-breakout. All the metrics are flipping bullish as price emerges above the cloud. Cloud is bullish, TK cross is bullish. The lagging span is this light green line here. It's just peaking above the cloud. It's already above the price. So from a trend metrics perspective, definitely already bullish, just like the 50 and the 200 EMA cross constitutes on the daily there. And then lastly, just looking at NEO BTC, it actually looks really good from the perspective of not moving yet. So it's sort of sideways basing here over the past 4 months, let's say. And it hasn't really done anything or gone anywhere. There's massive congestion on the upside here in the VPVR. You can see there's been a lot of volume on the way up. So it's going to have a hard time moving up just because there's been so much interest on the way up. You know, all these people that bought and are trapped from like 2019, 2018 are going to be selling on the way up. And that's obviously going to hamper the upside, at least in the near term. But it's above the cloud. It's above the 200. It's going to get its golden cross here in a few days, if not already. So going forward, it actually looks really good. It just doesn't look great right now. Or you know, going forward, it's got some upside resistance. There's no divergences or anything like that. So overall, charts look great. On-chain fundamentals, very poor for for NEO, which may or may not matter. Usually doesn't when the alt season is upon us.